Hello guys, in this video I want to give you a VirtualBox crash course. After this video you will know how to install VirtualBox, how to create virtual machines, how to deal with snapshots, the guest editions, how to pass through USB devices and even create your own networks and blueprints for many other virtual machines. With VirtualBox you can create a computer inside your computer or many more, and they are completely virtual. So I would say welcome to Linuxout. Let's start with the first thing, installing VirtualBox. I'm on a Linux Mint machine here, and for that we have two different options. The first option is to get to the software manager and search for VirtualBox. Here we have it. You could use this one, but this one is a bit older, and for example on older Linux Mint versions or Ubuntu versions, new updates kind of destroyed the VirtualBox of the software manager. So I highly recommend you, if you want to use this kind of professionally, that you take the VirtualBox version of the website. I head over to download here and I select Linux distributions. In here we can select our Linux distribution. In my case, Linux Mint 22 is based on Ubuntu 24.4. Linux Mint 21 is based on Ubuntu 22. Linux Mint 23 will be based on Ubuntu 26.4. So I take the Ubuntu version 24.4 and that takes a moment. Also, if you have another distribution, just download the right version for you. After that, I can open up this deb file, and if everything goes right, we see here, okay, we require some packages additionally to install, but if there is an error message in red, make sure there's no other VirtualBox component installed. So what you could do is type in the command sudo apt purge VirtualBox and with a little star behind it, and this removes all VirtualBox packages from your machine. And after that, this one should work. Just try to reopen it, and here we see now the installation of 28 packages. I hit install package here, type in my password, and I would say let's start. It's completely okay that we need some software. I select continue and just wait a moment. Then we can close everything, and we have to make sure that we have virtualization enabled in our BIOS. So these settings look like this, for example, Intel virtualization technology, or it's called virtualization technology VTX, something like this. Just check it in your BIOS. On some systems, this isn't enabled by default. Also, we need a installation medium that we can install something on our virtual computer. I have taken Xubuntu for this because, in my opinion, Xubuntu is a great operating system. It's very lightweight but very fast and starts very, very fast. This is why I like it so much for virtual machines. So yeah, I just downloaded this one. You get here a torrent, or you could also download it from any server here. I have also an ISO file in here. And now I would say, let's start VirtualBox. I go to my menu and search for VirtualBox in here. At the first time, we can't enumerate any USB devices. This is okay. We will care about that later. And now we could choose here if we want the expert or the basic mode. I prefer the expert mode, and I personally recommend you that too, because they are not too different at the time. So I will go with expert mode. So for our first time, let's select new in here, and now we can define a name. I define a name which is called Xubuntu in my case. This is okay for me. And then I can select an ISO image. This is the installation medium. I select other here and head over to downloads, and in here I select my ISO file. Here we see the type and subtype is already chosen right. So I select here also skip unattended installation. I don't want any unattended install. You probably also don't want it. So just make sure to check this one, and let's expand the page hardware. In here we can define our base memory. I personally recommend you at a maximum the half of your base memory. You could also choose more, but for that you really have to know what to do. So Linux is completely fine with about 2 gigs of RAM. If you want to do something more in your virtual machine, you could also raise this to 4 gigs. But in my case, this machine has only 4 gigs. So yeah, I would say 2 gigs is my maximum here. So this is okay. Also, I can choose the amount of processors. I highly recommend you to take 2 processors. Then we have a dual core system. This is much more faster than a single core one. And I would also recommend you to take the maximum, the half of your available CPUs. I'm going with 2. This is completely fine. You could also enable EFI boot mode, but we don't need this one for Linux, so I just leave it unchecked. And let us head over to hard disk. Here we can now define the size of our virtual hard disk. Because this is a complete computer inside your computer, we need to define how big should be the hard drive. And here we can define it very easily. It's just a file for our host computer here, which is our Linux Mint. But for our Ubuntu, it will be the complete hard disk, virtual hard disk, so to say. I'm going here with 25 gigs. That is completely okay. If you want more, then just choose more, but this is okay for me. Also, you could change the hard disk file type and variant. Don't change anything of this unless you really know what you do. I'm working daily with VirtualBox and I changed this one very rarely. So I select finish here and just wait for it to create. But yeah, it's just created. Perfect. It's very fast. And now I would say let's start with our virtual machine here. I open that one up, and if everything works, we see here, perfect, our virtual machine works. Here we see our start menu. We see also an auto capture keyboard message. You could read through this. Now this looks good, I would say. Also, if we click with our mouse inside the screen, I can select a capture in here, and then our mouse is captured. But we can get away with this captured mouse when Ubuntu has enabled its mouse support, which is in some moments. Or you could always hit the right control key and then also your mouse is back on your host system. At the first step, I would say let's install our Ubuntu on this virtual machine. So I will do this very fast. I select install Ubuntu 24.4 in this case. And here we have our new installer. Go with your preferred language. In my case, it's English. I hit next. Also, we can select our keyboard layout. I'm going with the German one. And I hit the next button. Also, we could connect to the internet. Our wired connection is okay. I will skip some steps because they are not important for this video. If you come to the question erase disk and install Ubuntu, is that okay? Yes, this is completely okay because it's a sandbox in your Linux Mint system in my case. So even if you hit here erase disk and install Ubuntu, just the virtual disk is erased and not your real hard disk. So you can do this without any dots. And I would say let's hit next. If you want, you can disable require my password to log in so that your virtual machine is faster booted up. So I will do this at this point. So I disable it and hit next. After the installation has finished, let's shut down this VirtualBox. So I head over to the menu and select shut down. This is the same, just like exiting this virtual machine. After the virtual machine is shut down, now our Ubuntu is installed with no further additions. So it could be cool to save this specific moment in a snapshot so that we can return to this. So I head over to this icon here and select snapshot of my virtual machine. And here I can take a snapshot, give it a name, for example, blank. Now we have this kind of a shot where we can access this one later by clicking on this snapshot and select restore. I would say let's start this virtual machine, and we have something to do here. We have just a nice screen resolution, but this is not enough. So what we could try is to shrink this one down and to re-maximize it. But we see, that doesn't change anything to the screen size. So what we have to do is to install the guest editions of the virtual machine of VirtualBox to this guest system Xubuntu. We can do this by select devices and select insert guest editions CD image. This takes a moment. Here we see the CD was mounted automatically, and we see here our tuner is starting up. What we have to do is to run this file here. We right click the right space here and select open in terminal here, and we type in sudo sh, and then we drag and drop this file here into this terminal. So we have this command here, and I press enter. Now I type in my password, and the VirtualBox Guest Editions installer is installing some additional drivers for this machine that it can interact better in terms of clipboard, shared folders, also better screen resolutions, and so on. So you definitely want this one. And it's completely open source and free. When everything is finished, the resolution changes, but this is okay. Now we can close everything. We can also unmount the drive by selecting devices, optical drives, and select remove disk from virtual drive. And we can select the force unmount. This is okay in this case. And now this image is mounted out. What we have to do now is to shut down our system again or restart our VirtualBox. The screen resolution will adapt to the size of the VirtualBox window. But if we reopen our VirtualBox manager here, we see an error message, can't enumerate USB devices. So why is that so? We need to add our user, which is currently running the VirtualBox manager, to be in a specific group called vbox users. For that, I open up my menu and select users and groups. Here in users and groups, I type in my password, head over to my user, and select groups. Here in groups, I go down all the way to vbox users and add him to this group just by selecting it. I select OK. Now let's restart our whole computer. Perfect. After a restart, let's start VirtualBox. And if is everything right, we don't see any error message on the right side. So I would say let's start this virtual machine again. Perfect, it is now booted up. Specifically, Xubuntu is very, very fast, I would say. So what is with the screen space? It's smaller now, but this is because your VirtualBox doesn't update its virtual screen space. But if we just unmaximize this window and maximize it again, then we see, hey, the screen resolution is updating with the current screen space. And this looks quite good, I would say. And let's check if we could pass through some USB devices. I select devices here, select USB, and perfect. Here we can now pass through some USB devices. Why is there for me just the VirtualBox USB tablet? This is because I am in an inception of VirtualBox, because I'm running VirtualBox in a VirtualBox, and here are my real devices. This one looks also quite fine for me, but for you it should look like this. Just depends which USB devices you have plugged in your computer. So this looks quite fine now. Let's head over to another very important steps. So we have our virtual computer and we are almost finished with a very good working environment. But some things are missing. For example, if you want to copy something from your host machine to the guest machine, then you can now choose under devices the shared clipboard. I personally recommend you to change this to bidirectional. So if you copy something in here, you can paste it outside here. And if you copy outside here something, then you can paste it in here. Just with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, this is working at a glance. Just try it. Also, we could move some files between these machines. The shared clipboard with enable clipboard file transfers is completely new for VirtualBox. This isn't too old, so I honestly didn't had too much experience with it. Maybe this is working quite fine for your distributions, then just go with it. As an alternative and some more traditional way, I go to the shared folders. So I select shared folder settings, and here I can add a new shared folder and select the folder path in here. And now I can choose a folder on my host machine where this folder portal, I would say, should be. I go with a name here, for example, VM, and open this one up, and also head over to auto mount, and I want to make this permanently in this case, so I choose also this check mark and I select OK. So now this looks quite fine. If I head over to the file manager of my host machine, I can now see my folder I created, and create a new document, for example this one. And now I can open up my file manager in here, and we see here, oh, there's a new device. Sometimes it's under network devices, but here we see it in devices. I open this one up and we see, oh yeah, there isn't any permission. Why can I access these things? Because this user here is not in the correct group for this. So we have to select inside this virtual machine the user and groups menu. We can head over to manage groups, and here in the group settings I scroll the way down to vboxsf. So I select this one, select the properties, and here I can add a group member. You can also just type in the following command: sudo usermod -ag vboxsf, and then your username. So this one works also quite fine for every Linux distribution. In Ubuntu it is this way with managed groups if you want to do it graphically. So then we have to re-log into our machine. So I select log out and log us in again. I very like the new desktop background of Ubuntu. Are you too? Yeah, just write it me into the comments. So I head over to my file manager, and now we reselect this VM folder here, and perfect. This now works quite fine. We see subscribe to linuxort.txt, and I can copy this file. I can create a new file. So we have a portal here inside our VirtualBox with our host machine where we can transfer very big files, for example, and it just works quite fine. There's also another shared feature. This is called drag and drop. I don't recommend you this because this is a bit buggy and doesn't work for every Linux distribution, and just don't use it. You could try, then be happy if it works, but on the most systems this won't work out of the box. Now it's time to do another snapshot, because this is now a state where we can begin working with our machine quite good. So I take a new snapshot. By the way, you can also take online snapshots. So if your virtual machine is running, you can also take some snapshots of this specific point where it is running. But I won't have to do this at this time. And I personally like offline snapshots a bit more. But you can do also online snapshots while the virtual machine is running. That's also completely okay. And I call it blank with guest additions. So perfect. We have a new snapshot, and now we could restore it to a earlier point. And I recommend you to not create the snapshot of the current machine state unless you really want to. And now, yeah, we have that set this state to the blank state, or we could also set this state to the blank with guest edition. So this is quite cool, and I use this snapshot feature a lot. So if we have to start this virtual machine, we currently have to open up the VirtualBox Manager, and in the VirtualBox Manager we have to double click this entry here or just hit start. But these are some steps too much, so I show you a smart trick how to put this virtual machine in your menu. I right click this virtual machine here and select create shortcut on desktop. Now we have a new shortcut. This is called in my case Ubuntu. So I open up my file manager and head over to the hidden files, select .local and select share applications, and in here I drag and drop this Ubuntu file. This is also a desktop file, I guess. Yeah, this is a desktop file. It isn't shown in this file manager, but it is a .desktop file. So I can close this one, and then we can easily search for Ubuntu, and we have it in our menu. And if you want, you can also add it to the panel, and if you click on it, then the VirtualBox starts at a glance. You could also head over to the full screen mode here just by pressing view and select full screen mode. I select switch, and now we are like in a real computer, but this computer is working on our Linux Mint and is in a sandbox, and this has a lot of possibilities. If you want to create a safe environment for online banking, for example, I'm doing this one for my Linux support business, or just to try out new Linux distributions and to record videos. Especially, I'm doing a lot with this VirtualBox. So this is all to the basics you need as a normal user in VirtualBox, I would say. So let me show you some advanced stuff you can also do with VirtualBox. At first, we could look to the extension packs of VirtualBox, because yeah, VirtualBox is very good as it is, but VirtualBox can also provide PXE boot, encryption of virtual machines, or the RDP function for VirtualBox, and so on. For that, we head over to virtualbox.org, and here we see the VirtualBox extension pack. So I accept and downloaded this, but this VirtualBox extension pack is not free for commercial use. So if you have to use some functions of the VirtualBox extension packs commercially, you have to buy another license. The rest of VirtualBox, if you don't need this VirtualBox extension pack or don't install it, is under the GPL3 license. So you can do whatever you want with this free version, but sometimes you could need it. Honestly, I needed this one for USB 3 and USB 2 support for my virtual machines, but this is now with the newest version just right in the base packages, so you won't need the extension pack there. And I honestly don't have any use case at the moment of time to really use this VirtualBox extension pack. But I want to show you how to install it if you have really to use it. We won't use this expansion pack here in this video, so you don't have to redo this, and just skip to the next point if you want. So I open up my VirtualBox Manager here. I select a file and select tools and select extension pack manager, and I click on install extension pack and open up this downloaded extension pack. Select open up, select install. Now we have to read the end user license agreement. This is great. I type in my password and now it is installing. It's very fast in installing. So now we can use all extra features of VirtualBox if you really have to. This is how you install the extension pack. Some months ago, I really had use cases for it. At the current moment of time, I don't have any use cases for this extension pack anymore. So this is great. I'm speaking about the USB settings. If we head over to settings, select USB here, then we see here enable USB controller, and the USB 2.0 controller is the default now. So these both are now also available without the extension pack. This is very, very cool. Let's head over to another very important topic that is called networks. So we head over to the settings of this virtual machine and we can go to the network settings. Here, VirtualBox really shines. There are also some other alternatives like KVM and QEMU, for example, with Word Manager, also GNOME boxes and so on, but they all don't have so many and very easy network functionality built right in. So the default one is attached to a network address translation, which is kind of local for this only virtual machine, but you can change this to a bridged adapter, for example. Then this Ubuntu machine behaves like a separate laptop in your local network, and you can access your printer very, very easily, for example. You can communicate with other computers, and you can also communicate from your Linux Mint machine to the Ubuntu machine via IP address, because this one gets an IP address of your local network. This is really, really cool. I'm using this bridge adapter very, very often. And also you could choose, for example, a NAT network. We don't have any NAT network, so I discard these changes. I open up the file, then tools. Then we could go to the network manager here, and I could create a host-only network, NAT network, or cloud network. I'm going to NAT network because this is like, to create your own local area network with your own switch and router. This is very, very cool. So I hit properties here, and you can define the address room. You could choose if you want to enable DHCP. With this, every machine in this network gets its own IP address automatically assigned. I really recommend that. And you can also choose some IPv6 features, and also you could choose some port forwarding if you really want, but this is quite enough. So if you have multiple machines and they should communicate to each other, but also should have some internet access, then this NAT networks really, really shine. But you won't need this as a normal user. I'm messing a bit with OpenStack at the current time. So for that, I created some NAT networks, I guess, for the management network and so on. But yeah, there are many things you can do to it. And also we could attach this to some other things. Cloud network, this is experimental. I don't think that you will need this. Just some other cool things. I really recommend you to stay on NAT if you don't have to do anything else. And if you wanted to act like a real computer in your network, just choose bridged adapter. And of course, you can also activate another adapter. Then you have two network cards in your virtual machine. And for example, go with this into the NAT network here, for example, which we created. And then we have two IP addresses for this Ubuntu machine. And it could talk with the rest of your normal local area network, but it could also talk with some other virtual machines which may not stay in your normal local area network and just on the NAT network, for example. But yeah, there are many cool things you could do. And if you are messing around a lot with networks and, for example, with VLANs and so on, just make sure that you select the permissions mode to allow all, for example. But this is a really advanced feature. You won't need this if you just want a simple network bridge or your simple NAT. Here in the network settings, VirtualBox really shines, and I don't know any other hypervisor for desktop usage which is such as good. Maybe Proxmox, but Proxmox is on the server side. If I should do anything for Proxmox, just write it me into the comments. It's also a very, very cool hypervisor, but this isn't for desktop usage anymore. Let's head over to another cool feature of VirtualBox, and this is called appliances. Because we can create blueprints. We can create a new blueprint for this Ubuntu machine by select File and select Export Appliance. Then I can choose the format settings. I won't do anything with this. I would choose the appliance settings here. You can set some name, description like the password and so on. And with this, I could just select finish. Now the virtual appliance is exported. With this, you have a blueprint. With it, you can create many more virtual machines that are pre-installed with Ubuntu, with our guest editions in this case, and you can just start using it. So all things we have done now, you haven't to do with a new virtual machine if you are importing such an appliance. So I would say it is like blueprinting. I'm doing this a lot with servers in VirtualBox. I have an image for Debian 12, Ubuntu 24.4 and other Linux distributions, which are just installed with a username, password, maybe the guest editions if you need it. If I now need a new machine and I want to create a new machine, I don't have to do anything from ground up. I could just import the blueprint and then I can just start using the new computer within, I would say, a minute. And this is also a very big feature of VirtualBox and virtual machines in general, that you can do such cool things like imaging, appliances. There are many words for that, and yes, there are some differences, but I will call it blueprinting for today. So in the end of this video, let me show you some very important key combinations which could be very useful in your usage. You could switch between full screen mode by hitting the right control key and the F key. And now I have my virtual machine in a window because I'm running this whole tutorial also in a virtual machine on my host system here. To go back to the full screen mode, I press the right control key and F again, and then we are in the full screen mode again. I can also minimize this one just by pressing the right control key and M, then it is minimized. And I could do some other things on my host machine. And if I want to get back, I could just press, for example, Alt-Tab, and I switch back to my virtual machine. Also, I could press the right control key and Q, just the right control key and Q. And here you see, I can now shut down the virtual machine via a signal and power off the machine completely. This is a hard power off. Here I can send a shutdown signal. I select OK, and Linux Mint is trained to just display this shutdown dialog. I'm doing this with Linux Mint right now. With Ubuntu this also works. I head over to the energy settings. It's called power management here, and I head over to the extra options. Here we see when the power button is pressed. This is just this signal here. You could also choose, for example, shut down immediately. I had done this, then I can press the right control key and Q. And if I now send the shutdown key, then this Linux Mint machine is shutting down very, very fast. So I start my virtual machine again. And there's also another very cool keyboard combination. If you want to do an instant snapshot, for example, I'm doing some instant snapshots before I'm recording a new video. So if I mess something up, I could very easily go back to this specific point and start again. You could also do this if you are trying out something new on your experimental Linux virtual machine, for example. And you can do very fast snapshots by pressing the right control key and T. Then we could take a snapshot of virtual machine. I select OK, perfect. Now it is creating a snapshot we see here. It takes about not even 10 seconds. And now if I head over to my virtual machine here, I see here now my created snapshot I have done 20 seconds ago, you see. Very cool and very handy feature also. This was everything I wanted to show you today with the VirtualBox. If you have some other questions, just write it into the comments. And if you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, because here we are uploading every week new Linux content and tutorials about open source software. So I would say take care and see you in the next one. Bye.